They got a nice trail system. Very cool. Maybe next time we'll bring our bikes. Just in case you're wondering, they do have restrooms.
Oh my god. It smells like stagnant water. Ew. It's a moat. It's a moat.
There's a moat?
Disgusting, yeah.
Oh shit, there is a moat.
Yelling. Stinking. So you don't like television.
This is where Katie belongs.
I could escape that.
Yeah, you're skinny enough to fit right through those holes, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Little mini canyon. It's so green. It's not that heavy, actually. It's just old.
That's cool. It's a jail cell?
It's scary.
Is the door closed?
I can close it for you.
Oh, it's just pretty roomy in here, man. You can get used to living in here.
Oh my god, did you see that shadow? Ghost!
No. When you're drinking.
I didn't know they had pressure treated 2x4s. You could actually still see the marks from where a cannon was being pivoted through this window here. As you can see here. As heavy as these things are, they were able to move them. This little creation called the wheel actually ran on steel rails going all the way around. Boom!
It was an island when it was built, and I can let you get to the shade. I know you were heading there.
Yeah.
I don't want to slow you down. But it made a lot more sense because it was 2 stories tall, and it was surrounded by the ocean, and Key West was a quarter mile to the north of us. So this fort made a lot more sense with 200 cannon aiming out to sea and the waves crashing on the front of the fort, connected to Key West by a bridge. What happened, obviously, the fort got chopped down and a lot of land appeared. All the land that surrounds this fort is man-made. It was all put here by the Navy, mostly after World War II, when the Navy put in submarine bases in Key West. And the submarine bases were put right outside our current park entrance, where the Coast Guard cutter Aiden is parked. You might have seen a children's water park there. It's the roundabout just outside the park.
Yeah.
When they put in the submarines, they piled all the dirt behind the island fort. But this was the back wall of the fort. It went from that corner, you can see the foundation.
Yeah.
This was all wall, went over to the red bricks, went another 100 yards to the other corner, 3 stories tall. This was a harbor. Key West was that way. A lot of land. Parallel to Duval Street on this side of it is Whitehead Street.
Yep.
Hemingway's house is on Whitehead Street,
Yes.
and the lighthouse is there. Well, Hemingway's house had waterfront views, and the lighthouse made sense because it was on the end of the island. Now that lighthouse is in the middle of town,
Yeah.
everybody goes, what a weird place to put your lighthouse.
Yeah.
Well, when they put it there, that was the edge of the island. You follow Whitehead Street to the very end, there's that big painted buoy that says Southernmost Point. Everybody gets their picture there.
Yep.
And when they get their picture there, they go, what about the land right over there? It looks a little further south. It is further south. That's part of the Navy's dredging operation. It's actually on the Navy base. You can't get to it, but there is land further south than the southernmost point. But when this fort was built, that corner of Whitehead in the ocean was the southernmost point. It was the end of the world.
Nice.
Now, to confuse you further, when the Navy gave the state of Florida this little section of the park, or this section of their base to make it into a park, we dug a moat around the fort to confuse everybody. It works great.
Yeah.
Because they think that's a strategic moat.
So that moat was not there back in the
It's not.
1800s.
That was the
Nice.
ocean.
That was the
In
ocean.
fact, this picture here shows you the fort.
Oh yeah. Well, we're from Pennsylvania, so we can't read. You know. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Well, see, here's what the fort looked like. And right now, you guys are actually standing right where my little guy is standing, and you're looking that direction. Because directly behind you is that corner, which we saw. Directly underneath my fingers is the section of the wall that got knocked down. So that was the back wall. Then the road, the little bridge, came out of the middle of the back.
Yeah, we saw where the
And it
front entrance would have been.
Yeah, exactly.
Drawbridge.
Right, and so, and you were like wondering, well, it's just, what the hell?
Yeah.
Well, it made sense because that was would have been the other side of it. And here's actually a photo of the fort. This would have been taken from what today is Mallory Square, the western seawall of the island, where people see the street performers and the sunset.
Sure.
If you were there at the end of the Civil War looking south, that's what you would have seen. And for you guys that
Changed.
are up there in fort country, you might have noticed this looks familiar to some of the forts that you might have seen on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Well, they're basically all the same.
Yeah. It's
What happened is after the colonies broke away from the British and everything was awesome, we thought things were great. Then we had round two with the British in the War of 1812. And the British burned Washington, D.C. to the ground. That was slightly embarrassing. And the reason they were able to do so is we didn't have enough forts. So we needed to build forts to protect us from those pesky European invaders. And we can't ask the British how to build forts, so we asked the French. And they gave us these blueprints. That's why all these forts look the same. So we built these French-designed forts all the way down the East Coast and into the Gulf of Mexico to defend us against Europeans, for the British coming around for round three, or maybe the Spanish. But they were all brand new by the time we had our Civil War. We used all these forts against each other. And by the end of the Civil War, they were all obsolete because the USA, the victors, I don't use Union. Union is a Southern term to make it sound fair.
Yeah.
It was the USA and the rebels from the South. The U.S. Army invented the rifled cannon. Before that, everybody shot cannonballs at each other. And this fort could handle cannonballs. But the new rifled technology, where the projectile comes out spinning, can go further, faster, and it can demolish a 3-story hollow brick fort. It was for that reason that this fort was intentionally chopped down to 1 story after the Civil War. By this time, we've got cement technology and we can make concrete. So we built the black sections that you see
Told you it
only
was
on
new.
the southern side of the island, because we had another war to deal with. We went to war with Spain in 1898, and Spain was in Cuba.
Was it ever actually invaded?
It wasn't.
No.
You know, this stayed under U.S. control the entire time,
Yeah.
which is pretty fun because Florida was the 3rd state to join the Confederacy. But the troops that were here were loyal to Lincoln, and they said, we're not leaving. And Key West was just as much of a freak show back then. The population of Key West was New Englanders, fishermen, Bahamians that were here to sponge, Cubans rolling cigars, and basically pirates and wreckers. The wreckers were guys making money on shipwrecks.
Last year we were up at Fort Ontario.
Oh, nice.
It was similar to this.
Yeah, you see a lot of
Different,
similarities,
but-
and you know, the timing, it was all...
Well, it's similar to the one on the other side of the island too.
Yes, we've got the Mortellos.
That
Yes,
yeah.
and what that was actually built in conjunction with this. It was to basically guard the flank, the rear of this fort.
small.
Since everything was aiming that way,
Yeah.
that was to guard the other side. The reason they put this fort where they did is Key West at the time had what they considered a deep water harbor. and they wanted to put a fort here. At the time they built this, they also built Fort Jefferson. You may be familiar with Fort Jefferson at the Dry Tortugas. It's a beautiful six-sided fort. It still has its 3 stories. That's 70 miles further west at the Dry Tortugas.
I think that's what we're gonna do. Go snorkel over here.
This is good for snorkeling because it's cheap. You can get to some interesting features. We got breakwaters just off the beach, a lot of marine life. So if you're not going to go out to the reef itself, 5 miles, you can just go right out here. They rent the equipment if you don't have.
We have some.
Yeah. When I get guests in town, relatives come down here. There's a couple places I always tell them to check out. Of course, I want to show off my park.
Yeah.
But the Custom House Museum downtown. It's basically at the end of Whitehead Street. It's a big, tall brick building with a high peaked orange roof. It's the biggest, oldest brick building.
Okay.
It's a neat museum.
Okay.
Nice air conditioner. Clean bathrooms, good gift shop. They got a neat thing on the Spanish-American War and the railroad and Hemingway. It's just a cool. It's a little different, but it's nice.
Yeah.
And then on the opposite end of town, the Butterfly Conservatory is
That's
so cool.
It's on our list.
People are like, "What?" I'm like, "No, you gotta go. That place is just crazy."
That's
Yeah.
on our list for down here.
Yeah, well, wonderful.
Cool.
Good stuff. And if you do go into the lighthouse, that's neat. You get a good view. And they'll tell you they moved the lighthouse, and everybody thinks they moved it from here to there. It's like, no, they moved it about 100 yards. So, but it's now still in the middle of town, but that appeases people. They don't realize, no, the island grew huge.
Yeah.
So,
Nice.
yeah, well, welcome to Key West, guys.
Hey guys, follow me.